you look to older millennials like ourselves, the geriatric millennials, if you will. Right?
Speaking my language, guys.
Yeah. We start our adult lives and our careers in 2008. I know I literally moved to New York City in
Tough
October.
time.
Yeah, October 2008 to work in finance in New York City. Great time to be, getting that started. And then we survived that, get through that, only to, start raising kids during a pandemic. Can we get a break here? So, two major historical once-in-a-lifetime events happening. And this is what we've had to navigate. It doesn't make us any more special than other generations. It's just very specific to how we manage our lives and our financial lives during these times.
And to what extent do your clientele actually represent that demographic?
I would say 80% are between the ages of 28 to 50. So with that average being right around 40, 42.
I think people know you guys from social media, like
That's fair.
the jokes on Twitter.
Sure.
How much of customer acquisition comes from social media?
So I like to think of it as one piece of the overall puzzle. Here we're doing, very traditional mainstream financial media, and you pair that with social media. It's never one thing.
Are you calling us traditional?
No, I'm calling you awesome.
Okay, just checking.
We need you. Right? We need all of these.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know,
kidding.
but we need all of these tools to create, a robust way to market in the internet era, right? And the attention economy that we're in.
Well, one of the things I was thinking, and it was funny, people have come up to me about truth in today's society, and just with the political environment, and just there's so much content, even when it comes to business advice. And how do you make sure that what you're putting out there, you're careful about it, there's transparency, because there's a lot of information that's out there that is not good.
Yeah. Heather can talk to that in terms of, we talk about financial influencers all the time and those who are licensed and those who aren't. You're getting more information on the Reddits and the TikToks. And you and I look at those videos and that content all the time, and we have opinions around that.
I think it's very important that you don't end up on the extreme ends of the scale, right? When we talk, we try and tell people, look, there isn't one right way for everyone. So I think you have to be cautious when you see, let's say, a Finfluencer online who says, everyone should always do this, or you should never
extremes.
Be in a position to do that. That's
this is the only product for you. They're trying to sell you that product right here. And I know a lot of financial creators that are so hardworking. It is tough to do this, and a lot of respect to them. But when you get into those extremes, or you're pushing products, or there are no guardrails whatsoever, it can get dangerous here. And there's just not enough of the hybrid. You can be both. You can be a professional and a content creator. You can do all of these things, but people tend to just stick to their corners, I think.
So if we think about your clients, it's different in the sense of, we're oftentimes talking to wealth managers who have, $5, $10, $100 billion in assets under management. I mean, much bigger than where you guys are right now. So you're at a different end of the spectrum, and your clientele represent that. Yeah. I think people might say, okay, a lot of these folks are Henrys, right? High income, not yet rich, right?
Yeah,
whatever the acronym is.
Yeah.
How do you keep them when they do become rich?
Yeah, I think we have less of that problem when you're there with somebody in the days that they're grinding it out and establishing themselves. You're likely to have a stickier relationship, a more loyal relationship. You meet someone after they've made their money, I think you have a weaker relationship. You were not there for the time.
Right.
You're as good as your last transaction. That is the worst place you want to be as a wealth manager, as good as your last transaction, as someone who's been at the core of their growth and having that kind of relationship. So, by design, investing in our clients at a time when we were in our mid to late 20s, that's how we keep them for generations. Their children are our clients. They are also 9 years old, but they're our clients, and they will be. And that can then transcend down, and we don't have to worry about maybe some of our colleagues that haven't been paying attention to the next generation. They have 70, 80-year-old clients. They have issues with retaining the money because they didn't even bring their partner to the table.
Yeah.
And like these gender tropes, a lot of why we've written a book about love and money is to solve that problem, bring both partners to the table, and that's very characteristic of the type of clients that we serve.
You have a new book coming out too, I think in October, Money Together. But I want to ask you about the quarterly check-ins. I do think this is such. No, I think
money
it's
dates.
Yeah, tell us about these money dates in terms of what you guys do in terms of your own financial planning.
Yeah.
Well, for us, we try and do something that we could look forward to. So Doug and I know what we like to do, right? We like to go for walks. Mm-hmm. That's just maybe that's like a leftover thing from COVID and like pushing strollers around the neighborhood.
We like drinks too.
Yeah, we like cocktails too. So like we'll go out for a nice cocktail, or we will go for a walk, or we'll go play tennis and be sure to leave 20 minutes on the back end to have a good conversation after we've like sweated out a little bit. I think the most important thing with money dates is to do what you enjoy, so this doesn't become something that is a chore, something that you dread. You want to incorporate the money conversation into your life.
But does it always go well?
No.
Of course not. You're talking about actual decisions you need to make that involve risk and charting the course of your life
Different
moving forward.
priorities sometimes?
Of course.
How about this? To Heather's point, start the conversations with the wins and what you did right. You're going to have a better time getting into it, and then talk about where room for improvement needs to be made. Then be critical. Give yourself a pat on the back and the hard work you're doing before you get into that stuff, so you reduce the probability that you're going to get into some kind of scuffle around something that you don't agree on. And it's very normal to find stuff you don't agree on. If you're agreeing to everything, I'd be a little more concerned about that.
Well, right, and our concept of a money date doesn't just include looking at a net worth table, looking at spending.
Don't start there.
Don't start there. You can talk about childcare. Talk about whether you both feel like your bandwidth, like you have any bandwidth or you don't, or whether you feel totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You could talk about goals. You talk about how, like Doug said, the things you've been doing right and the things you could stand to improve upon for the next quarter.
We rather talk about how we're going to get on that trip with the kids during November when the teachers do their convention thing in New Jersey. And we rather, we're going to rally around that conversation because we want to go have that experience with them. And that then dovetails into, okay, let's see how we can afford to do that. What do we have to shift around? All right, let's cancel this babysitter. Let's not do that date with our friends because we much rather, we can do that anytime. You can't create those memories, all the time with your little kids. So those are great ways to engage something where most people are like, here's what you did wrong this month, sweetie. Like, what an awful, awful way to start out. You're not going to do it next quarter.
Right.
And you need 4 quarters in a year. 2 years is only 8 cracks at it. It's not a lot.
It's practical, but it makes an awful lot of sense.
Big
Doug,
time.
we're going to let you go because you got to run to your panel. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Have
Heather's here
fun.
for you.
Yeah.
Heather, you're not so lucky. You're staying with
You're stuck with us.
Good luck, babe.
Good luck with the panel.
Thanks,
We're going to let
guys.
you go.
Absolutely.
We do want to stay with you, Heather, because you do have this book coming out in October, Money Together, How to Find Fairness in Your Relationship and Become an Unstoppable Financial Team. And I just think it's kind of interesting because I do think a lot of couples do have different priorities, right? And you've got to figure it out.
They sure do.
Tell us about this book, though, and what you guys wanted to do with it.
We want to help couples communicate about money better. Bottom line. I think that it's one of the hardest things for couples to talk about because money is not just money, right? We tether our beliefs and our behaviors around money. They come along with a host of feelings about trust, freedom, power, independence. So when you're actually getting in a little spat, week to week on spending, that's not really what you're talking about. There might be feelings beneath that. There could be a spouse who doesn't feel like all of their invisible work is being seen. So what we really hope to do with this book is to have the conversations that aren't being had. We want to really uncover those, deeper power dynamics over money in your relationship and help couples find a way to talk about it in hopes that we can level that playing field and really bring more equity into relationships.